My name is Casey Miller. The story I am about to share with you today is about betrayal, about greed, and about the agonizing choices you must make when those you trust most treat your future like their personal ATM. This is the true account of how I personally sent my own family members to federal prison. Before I begin, I need to take you back to that afternoon that completely altered the trajectory of my life. It was October 14th, 2024, a Friday, at exactly 3:47 in the afternoon. I will forever remember this precise moment because it was when I discovered that I had been betrayed by those closest to me. I was standing in my small rented apartment, clutching a bank statement I had just printed from Wells Fargo. The paper had become damp from my trembling, sweaty palms, and the ink was beginning to blur. But that devastating number still pierced my eyes with crystal clarity. Available balance, $12.45. $70,000. 7 years' worth of every drop of blood and sweat I had earned, vanished without a trace while I remained completely unaware. In that moment, my mind echoed with words my father Robert had spoken just hours earlier, words that would haunt my sleepless nights ahead. "We gave it to your brother for his new business. He's the man of the family." When I had questioned why Michael was receiving this money when he was currently under FBI investigation for telecommunications fraud, my mother Linda had responded with chilling casualness. "Well, we also used your name on a loan to help him." That instant, I realized this was no longer a family financial dispute, but rather serious federal crime. My family had not only stolen my life savings, but they had also stolen my identity to burden me with massive debt. I picked up my phone and dialed 911. But for you to understand why I ultimately chose this path of no return, I must tell you this heartbreaking story from the very beginning. I am 25 years old today, and I grew up in a small town called Millbrook in Oregon State. This was a typical blue-collar community where most residents worked at the nearby lumber mill or the Amazon distribution center. My father, Robert Miller, was a truck driver, and my mother, Linda, worked as a cashier at the local supermarket. The most distinctive characteristic of our household was our deeply ingrained preference for sons over daughters. In Robert's worldview, males were the pillars of the family, while females were ultimately destined for marriage and childbearing. While this mentality is not uncommon in certain conservative regions of America, in our home, it was taken to extremes. My older brother Michael was 7 years my senior and had been raised from childhood as the family's golden hope. Robert would proudly take him to various sporting events, buy him the latest gaming consoles and athletic shoes, and even purchased a used Ford Mustang as his 18th birthday gift. As for me, Robert's expectations were simple and brutal. Girls just need to learn how to cook and do laundry, find a good man to marry. What's the point of reading so many books? This differential treatment reached its peak during my high school years. When my grade point average reached 3.8 and I was accepted to Portland State University with a partial scholarship, I excitedly handed the acceptance letter to my father. Robert glanced at it briefly and casually tossed it onto the coffee table. "We cannot afford that tuition. Michael is getting married next year, and we need to save money for his down payment." "But Dad, I can apply for financial aid. You just need to fill out the parent section of the FAFSA form." "Absolutely not." Robert's attitude was uncompromisingly firm. "I will not expose our family's financial situation just to send you to some worthless college. If you want to study, figure it out yourself." Without parental financial information, I could not qualify for most federal financial aid programs. Private loan interest rates were frighteningly high, and as an 18-year-old high school student, I had no credit history to secure favorable rates. That night, I cried in my room until dawn. I gazed out the window, imagining the college life my classmates were about to begin, while I would be trapped in this suffocating small town, repeating the trajectory of my parents' generation. But I did not give up. If my family would not help me, I would take responsibility for my own future. I chose Millbrook Community College, where tuition was only $1,200 per semester. I told myself this was merely a temporary compromise. I would work hard to save money and eventually transfer to a 4-year university to pursue my computer science dreams. Thus began my 7 years of inhuman existence. Calling my life inhuman is no exaggeration. From 2017 to 2024, I simultaneously held 3 jobs. During the day, I worked full-time as a shift supervisor at Starbucks, earning $15 per hour. This position required me to arrive at 5:30 in the morning to prepare for opening. I was responsible for managing the morning shift team, handling various customer complaints, and ensuring every cup of coffee met company standards. While Starbucks' corporate culture claimed to be friendly, the actual workload was extreme. Especially during morning rush hours, we often had to prepare over 200 beverages in a single hour, while customer patience typically lasted only 2 minutes. After finishing at Starbucks at 6 in the evening, I would drive directly to Target to work the evening stocking shift. This job ran from 7 at night until 2 in the morning, paying $13.50 per hour. My responsibilities included stocking merchandise that had been unloaded during the day and reorganizing product displays that customers had disrupted throughout the day, as well as cleaning shelves. This was extremely physically demanding work. I frequently had to move 50-pound boxes and walk several miles within the massive warehouse space. The most challenging aspect was that Target's night shift management was exceptionally strict. They used monitoring systems similar to Amazon's to track our work efficiency. If the number of items we stocked per hour failed to meet standards, we would receive warnings or even termination. I witnessed too many colleagues lose their jobs because a single bout of illness caused their efficiency to decline. On weekends, I also took data entry jobs on Upwork, a freelance platform. These assignments typically involved helping small businesses organize Excel spreadsheets or entering court documents for law firms. While the individual project rates were not high, usually $20 to $50 each, they offered flexible scheduling, allowing me to complete them between 3 and 6 in the morning after returning home. I lived in my parents' basement. Calling it a basement was generous. It was more accurately described as a barely converted storage room. There were no windows, the humidity was severe, and during winter months, there was a persistent musty odor. Even so, Robert insisted on charging $400 monthly rent. "Since you choose to live at home, you need to bear responsibility." Those were his exact words. My schedule operated as follows. I finished at Target at 2 in the morning and returned home, worked on Upwork projects from 3 to 6, slept from 6 to 8, woke at 8:30 to prepare for Starbucks. On weekends, while I did not work at Target, I spent more time on Upwork projects and handled school assignments. For 7 years, I had absolutely no social life. One by one, my friends graduated from college, found respectable jobs, and began their professional careers. Meanwhile, I was still at community college, slowly earning credits 1 course at a time, because I could not afford full-time student tuition. I did not own an iPhone, instead using a $50 Android phone. I had no Netflix subscription, no dining out, no travel, not even new clothing. I saved every penny I could into that account, a joint account shared with my father Robert. Looking back now, opening that joint account was the most fatal mistake I ever made. At the time, I was 18 years old, and the Wells Fargo bank manager suggested I find a co-holder with good credit history. This would provide better account conditions, such as waived monthly management fees and higher overdraft protection limits. Robert appeared very supportive at the time and even volunteered, saying, "I'll be your guarantor. This way, your savings will be more secure." I was too young and naive then, thinking this was a manifestation of paternal love. I completely failed to realize that a joint account meant Robert possessed equal account control with me. He could withdraw all funds without notifying me. As time passed, I grew older and established credit history, making me fully capable of independently managing bank accounts. However, due to my busy work schedule and some blind trust in family, I never went to the bank to process the removal of the joint account holder. This lazy decision ultimately destroyed my life. For 7 years, I watched the account balance grow little by little. Each time I logged into the Wells Fargo mobile app to check the balance, it provided enormous psychological comfort. Those numbers represented my efforts, my future, my belief that someday I could escape this suffocating environment. By October 2024, this account contained $72,400. This was not merely money. This was the price of my youth. These were the wages for my persistence while entering data at 3 in the morning, for gritting my teeth while moving frozen meat in Target's cold storage, for forcing smiles while facing unreasonable customers. Every single dollar represented a sacrifice. My original plan was to save $75,000, then transfer to the University of Washington's computer science program. Seattle's technology industry was thriving, with Microsoft, Amazon, and Google all maintaining important offices there. This would be my opportunity to completely change my destiny. On October 13, 2024, I finally received my acceptance letter from the University of Washington. In that moment, I felt 7 years of suffering were about to end. I excitedly opened the Wells Fargo app, preparing to check my balance and calculate tuition payment plans. The numbers on the screen instantly froze my blood. Available balance, $12.45. I assumed it was a system error. Wells Fargo's app sometimes experienced delays or displayed incorrect information. I force-closed the application and logged in again. Available balance, $12.45. My heart began racing frantically. I clicked on account details, then recent transactions. The information that appeared on screen completely shattered my world. October 12, 2024, 2:47 p.m. Wire transfer to Michael Miller Ventures LLC. Amount, negative $72,388. Authorization, Robert Miller, joint account holder. I stared at this line for a full 5 minutes, my brain completely unable to process this information. $72,388. This was nearly my entire life savings. The transfer recipient was Michael Miller Ventures LLC, my brother Michael's shell company, and the authorizing party was Robert Miller, my father. I felt a wave of dizziness and had to lean against the wall to remain standing. Sharp pain shot through my chest, as if someone was stirring a knife there. I tried convincing myself this was some kind of misunderstanding. Perhaps the bank had made an error. Perhaps someone had stolen account information. Perhaps. But no, the authorizer was Robert. This was not theft by outsiders. This was betrayal by family. I dialed Wells Fargo customer service with trembling hands. While waiting to connect, I could hear my heartbeat thundering in my ears. "Hello, this is Wells Fargo customer service. How can I help you today?" "I want to inquire about a transfer record in my account." My voice was shaking. The amount was over $72,000, transferred yesterday afternoon. "Sure, let me check that for you. Can you please verify your account information?" After a series of identity verifications, the customer service representative confirmed all details of this transfer. "Yes, I see this transaction. It was initiated by Mr. Robert Miller, who is listed as a joint account holder. The wire transfer was sent to Michael Miller Ventures LLC. Everything appears to be in order from our system's perspective. But I had no knowledge of this transfer. I was nearly sobbing. I did not authorize this money. I understand your concern, Ma'am. However, joint account holders have equal access to all funds in the account. Mr. Robert Miller has the legal authority to make this transaction without your prior consent. After hanging up, I collapsed onto the sofa. Legally, Robert did have the right to use that money. This is how joint accounts operate. But morally, ethically, as a father, how could he do this? I remembered Michael's various behaviors over the years. He was 32 years old and had never maintained a job for longer than 6 months. He always had various revolutionary business ideas, from Bitcoin mining to online fitness courses, to his recent blockchain logistics solutions. Each project required startup capital, and each project ultimately came to nothing. And every time, it was our parents who paid for his failures. I remembered last Thanksgiving when Michael excitedly described his cryptocurrency arbitrage strategy, claiming that with just $50,000 invested, he could double it within 6 months. Robert's eyes sparkled with anticipation, as if he could already see a millionaire future. But I also remembered something else. Just 2 weeks ago, I had seen an article on the local news website, Millbrook Patch. The headline read, "Local Entrepreneurs Under Investigation for COVID Relief Fraud." The article mentioned that the FBI was investigating several local shell companies that had falsely reported employee numbers during 2020 through 2021, fraudulently obtaining large amounts of PPP, Paycheck Protection Program loans. These loans were originally established by the government to help small businesses maintain operations during the pandemic. Among the companies under investigation, I saw Miller Logistics Solutions, LLC. This was a company Michael had registered in 2020, which he claimed did freight coordination. But as far as I knew, this company had never actually operated. At the time, I had screenshot this news and sent it to a few friends, joking that my brother might be in trouble. But I did not tell my parents because I thought that even if Michael was unreliable, Robert would not be stupid enough to invest my savings with someone under FBI investigation. Now it appeared I had underestimated my father's blind favoritism. I grabbed my car keys and rushed to my parents' house. I needed answers. I needed explanations. I needed my money back. 15 minutes later, I pushed open that familiar oak front door. My parents' house was filled with the aroma of beef stew and potatoes, Linda's specialty dish. In the living room, Fox News could be heard from the television. Robert was lying in his brown lazy-boy recliner, wearing reading glasses and looking at the newspaper. Everything seemed so normal, so warm. This false harmony made me sick. "Where is the money?" I had no small talk and directly held my phone screen in front of Robert. Robert looked up, removed his glasses and glanced at my phone screen. His expression showed no surprise or shock, which made me realize this was not an impulsive decision, but calculated betrayal. Oh, that. His tone was as casual as if discussing today's weather. Michael has a once-in-a-lifetime investment opportunity. His blockchain logistics platform, if he missed this funding window, it would be such a waste. "That was my money," I screamed. "Every penny I worked 7 years to save. How dare you? How dare we?" Robert slowly stood up. His height towered over me by a full head, with the typical blue-collar male intimidation presence washing over me. "In this house, resources must be used where they matter most. Your brother is destined for great things. He needs this startup capital. You're just a girl. What's the point of studying computer science? You'll just get married and have children anyway." At this moment, Linda emerged from the kitchen, holding a dish towel with that typical peacemaker expression on her face. But in my eyes, this was the hypocrisy of an accomplice. "Casey, don't get so upset," Linda's voice was gentle but accusatory. "How can you speak to your father this way? We did this for the family's future. Once Michael's business succeeds, we will all benefit." Benefit? I felt the absurdity. He still owes me $500 from the last time he borrowed money. When has he ever fulfilled any promise? Robert's face began turning red, a sign of his anger. Michael is at a crucial point in his career. He needs family support. As his sister, shouldn't you feel proud of your brother's success? "We gave it to your brother for his new business," Robert repeated, then added a phrase I would never forget. "He's the man of the family." He is the man of the family. These words hit my face like a slap. In their eyes, no matter how hard I worked, how successful I became, I would always be a secondary existence. Michael, even as a complete failure, was still more worthy of investment than me, a daughter who had struggled for 7 years. I took a deep breath, trying to use reason to combat this madness. "Dad, do you know Michael's current situation? He's under FBI investigation." I looked into their eyes and asked word by word, "Isn't he currently under investigation for wire fraud?" Robert paused momentarily, then dismissively waved his hand. "That's all fake news. The government is persecuting innovative entrepreneurs." Michael explained it all. Those PPP loans were completely legitimate business activities. I could hardly believe my ears. Even facing FBI investigation, they still chose to believe Michael's lies. Just then, Linda said the words that would ultimately push us all into the abyss. She seemed to think I still did not understand the scale of Michael's business and needed more evidence to convince me to accept this fait accompli. She said casually, "Don't worry about those investigations. They're all misunderstandings. We're fully supporting Michael, not only that savings, to help him gather enough equipment procurement funds, we also applied for a loan using your name." Time seemed to freeze. "You did what?" My voice was as light as a ghost's whisper. "Applied for a business loan in your name," Linda continued explaining, her tone as casual as if borrowing my car. "Michael's credit score is temporarily problematic and your father's loan limit is maxed out. Your credit record is excellent, so the bank approved it easily." I felt the world spinning. Identity theft. This was their gift to me. "How much money?" My voice trembled. "Not very much," Linda tried to comfort me. $35,000 in personal loans, plus a business credit card with a $15,000 limit. Once Michael's business pays off, we'll pay it back immediately. $50,000 in debt. Plus the $72,400 in stolen cash. My family had cost me over $120,000 in less than a month. More terrifyingly, this debt would exist in my name. If Michael's business failed, which was almost certain, the banks would come after me for responsibility. My credit record would be completely destroyed. I would be unable to rent apartments, unable to buy cars, unable to pass any background checks. My life, at 25 years old, had been completely ruined by my own relatives. "You forged my signature," I said in a trembling voice. "You stole my identity information. This is a crime." Robert snorted. "Crime? We're your parents. Helping children plan their finances is parental responsibility." Financial planning? I felt flames of anger burning in my chest. "You stole copies of my identification, used my social security number to apply for loans. You call this financial planning?" "What are you talking about?" Linda's voice rose an octave. "How could we possibly steal from you? Your documents are right upstairs in your room." Her words inadvertently admitted everything. Yes, my documents were upstairs, in the room where I had lived since childhood, and they, while I was away from home, had taken my identification card, social security card, and bank card information, forging my signature. I remembered that afternoon last month when I came home early from Starbucks and found Linda in my room, organizing. She had said she was helping me fold clothes, and I had not thought much of it. Now everything was clear. I did not argue with them further. I turned and rushed out of the house, sitting in my beaten Honda Civic with hands shaking on the steering wheel. I needed to confirm the exact extent of the damage. I opened the Credit Karma app. If seeing my bank balance zeroed out was heartbreak, then seeing my credit report was despair. My credit score, the excellent record I had carefully maintained for 7 years, had plummeted from 750 points to 580, and it was still dropping. In the Open Accounts section, 2 records appeared that I had never seen before. 1. Sophie Personal Loan, $35,000, opened 3 weeks ago. 2. American Express Business Credit, $15,000 limit, $14,750 used. I clicked on the SoFi loan details. The application date was September 28th, the day I was working at Starbucks. The application address showed my parents' home address. More infuriating was that this loan carried an interest rate of 18.99%, a punitive rate for high-risk applicants. Obviously, they had misrepresented my income and employment information when applying, causing the bank to classify me as a high-risk borrower. I continued reviewing the American Express records. This business credit card had been charged $14,750 within just 2 weeks, with purchases including computer equipment, office furniture, and even a $3,000 cash advance. All this debt would remain on my credit report for 7 years. Even if I paid it off immediately, credit score recovery would take years. And I knew Michael could never repay this money. His so-called blockchain logistics platform was at best an idea still in its infancy, more likely just another facade to deceive investors. I remembered Robert's words from earlier. He's the man of the family. I remembered Linda's casual dismissal. We used your name. This was no longer a family dispute. This was their deliberate crime to destroy my entire future in order to prop up that 32-year-old man-child who had never truly become independent. If I took no action, I would pay for Michael's failures for the rest of my life. I would be unable to attend university, unable to build a career, unable to escape this suffocating small town. I sat in my car, looking at the warm lights in my parents' house. They were probably sitting down to enjoy that beef stew dinner, thinking they had resolved their daughter's unreasonable tantrum. I had to make a choice. Either be an understanding daughter, accept this unfair arrangement, and watch my life be destroyed, or stand up and fight back, regardless of the cost. I remembered a quote I had read in a book somewhere. Sometimes the only way to save yourself is to become the villain in someone else's story. I picked up my phone. 911, what is your emergency? The dispatcher's voice was calm and professional, but I could feel my heartbeat almost drowning out her words. I want to report identity theft and bank fraud. I'm currently located at 245 Maple Avenue in Millbrook, Oregon. I just discovered that my parents have fraudulently used my identity to obtain large loans and have stolen $70,000 from my bank account. My voice was surprisingly steady, which surprised even me. Mom, this sounds like it might be a civil matter between family members. Are you sure this isn't something that should be handled through your bank or family court? This was the expected response. Many 911 dispatchers initially classified family financial disputes as civil matters. No, officer, I interrupted her. This is criminal identity theft under federal law. Unauthorized use of someone's social security number to obtain loans is a felony, regardless of family relationships. Additionally, the person who received the transferred funds, my brother Michael Miller, is currently under FBI investigation for wire fraud related to PPP loan schemes. Mentioning the FBI and ongoing federal investigation immediately changed the dispatcher's attitude. I see. Can you provide more details about the amounts involved and the timeline? Over $120,000 total, $72,000 stolen from my savings account yesterday, and $50,000 in fraudulent loans taken in my name over the past 3 weeks. I have documentation from my credit report showing loans I never applied for. Officers will be dispatched immediately. Please remain at your current location. After hanging up, I continued sitting in my car waiting. I knew that once police cars appeared on this quiet street, I would completely lose my family, but I also knew that if I did nothing, I would lose myself. 5 minutes later, 2 Millbrook Police Department patrol cars with flashing red and blue lights stopped in front of the lawn. I got out of my car and walked toward the police. At the same time, the front door opened and Robert and Linda appeared on the porch in panic. "What's going on? Casey, what did you do?" Linda's voice was shrill with panic. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Davies," a tall police officer approached me. "You're the one who called about financial fraud." "Yes, officer. These people," I pointed toward Robert and Linda, "fraudulently used my personal information to obtain loans totaling $50,000, and yesterday they transferred $72,000 from my bank account without my knowledge or consent." Officer Davies turned to Robert. "Sir, I need to see some identification." "This is ridiculous," Robert roared. "She's my daughter. This is a family matter. You have no business here." "Sir, identity theft is a crime regardless of family relationships. Please provide your ID." Just then, an unmarked black SUV slowly approached and stopped at the curb. 2 men in suits got out and walked toward us. "FBI," one of them showed his badge. "We've been monitoring financial transactions related to an ongoing investigation. We understand there's been a report of fraudulent activity involving Michael Miller." I later learned that since Michael had been placed on the investigation list for PPP loan fraud, all his financial activities were under surveillance. The $72,400 my father had transferred triggered the bank's anti-money laundering alert, and my 911 report provided them with grounds to intervene. Robert's face changed from anger to ashen grey. "Is Michael Miller on the premises?" the FBI agent inquired. "No, he's at his apartment," Linda answered tremblingly, "but he's supposed to come for dinner soon." As if scripted perfectly, the distant sound of an engine roared closer. Michael's gleaming silver BMW X5, obviously rented with fraudulent money, was pulling into the driveway. What followed was chaotic and swift. Michael immediately recognized the severity of the situation as soon as he got out of his car. "What the hell is going on here? Why are there cops at my parents' house?" The FBI agent immediately approached. "Michael Miller, you're under arrest for wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit bank fraud." "You've got the wrong guy. I'm a legitimate businessman. That money was a family investment." But by this time, the second agent had already searched Michael's car and found several laptops and a briefcase full of fake business documents. Robert tried to defend his son. "That's my money. I gave it to him willingly." The FBI agent looked coldly at Robert. "Mr. Miller, if you're claiming that money was yours to give, then you're admitting to conspiracy to commit fraud. But according to this young lady's statement, that money was stolen from her account, and the loans were taken fraudulently using her identity. Which version would you like us to investigate?" Robert realized he was trapped in a logical snare. If he admitted to voluntarily giving Michael the money, he became an accomplice to fraud. If he denied it, he would be responsible for identity theft. Either choice meant he would be taken away with us tonight. Robert Miller, Linda Miller, you're under arrest for identity theft, bank fraud, and conspiracy. When the handcuffs clicked shut around Robert's wrists, he turned to look at me, his eyes filled with venom and disbelief. You ungrateful bitch. You destroyed this family for money, your own family. I stood in the autumn cold wind, watching 3 police cars carry away my entire family. No, Robert, I said softly, though he could no longer hear me. You destroyed this family when you decided I was worth less than Michael's fantasies. The arrest was only the beginning of the story, not the end. The following months, my life was completely consumed by legal proceedings. As the primary victim and key witness, I needed to cooperate with the FBI investigation, providing various evidence and testimony. The next morning, I went to the Wells Fargo branch and filled out an identity theft affidavit. With the police report, the bank agreed to initiate fund recovery procedures. Fortunately, the FBI had timely frozen all of Michael's accounts, including his fake Michael Miller Ventures LLC. Since the transfer had just occurred, most of the funds had not yet been moved or spent. But fund recovery was a complex process. The bank needed to confirm this was indeed a fraudulent transfer, required court orders, and needed to coordinate with federal investigations. The entire process took 4 months. During this time, I had to continue my 3 jobs to maintain my livelihood, while also dealing with endless legal documents and hearings. The most difficult part was handling those fraudulent loans. I needed to prove to SoFi and American Express that these loans were not applications I had made. I needed to provide extensive evidence proving I was not present at the time, and I had to argue with credit bureaus Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion one by one. This process was extremely exhausting. Each company had its own procedures, required different documents, and set different waiting times. I spent countless hours calling customer service, sending faxes, and filling out forms. What angered me most was the attitude of certain institutions. A SoFi customer service representative once told me, "Family financial disputes are complex. We cannot simply cancel loans unless there's a court judgment." I had to explain repeatedly, "This is not a financial dispute. This is identity theft. I have a police report. I have an FBI case number." Simultaneously, I faced pressure from the community. Millbrook was a small town where news spread quickly. Many people knew about the Miller family situation, and opinions about me were sharply divided. Some people supported me. "She has the right to protect her property. Parents shouldn't steal their children's money." But more people thought I was too heartless. No matter what, they're still her parents. Couldn't they resolve things privately? Did she have to take it to court? The most painful were emails from Linda. After being released on bail, she sent me long emails almost daily, filled with emotional manipulation. "Casey, do you know how difficult it is for Dad in jail? He has high blood pressure, and the medical conditions there are poor. Do you really have the heart to watch him die in there? It's just money. Can money be more important than family?" Every time I received such emails, I had to remind myself, this was not about money. This was about respect and boundaries. If I backed down this time, they would think I could always be used at will. In March 2024, the case officially went to trial. Because it involved federal crimes including interstate wire fraud, the case was heard in federal court in Portland. This was my first time entering a federal courthouse. The solemnity and majesty left a deep impression on me. Michael's case was the most serious because he had not only stolen my identity and funds, but was also involved in previous PPP loan fraud. The FBI investigation revealed that during 2020 through 2021, he had defrauded over $200,000 in government relief funds by fabricating employee lists and forging payroll records. In court, Michael tried to defend himself, claiming these were all normal business operations and he had no malicious intent. But the evidence presented by prosecutors was indisputable. False employee lists, including deceased individuals and fabricated identities, forged bank statements and pay stubs, detailed records of using my identity information to apply for loans, his search history showing queries for how to quickly register offshore companies and anonymous Bitcoin transactions. Most damning was that FBI had found a folder named Exit Strategy on his computer, containing detailed plans for transferring funds to overseas accounts. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Michael ultimately abandoned his defense and accepted a plea agreement. Robert and Linda's case was relatively simpler. Prosecutors primarily charged them with identity theft and bank fraud. In court, Robert still tried to play the family card. His lawyer argued, this was a father's tragic error in judgment while trying to help his son. He had no malicious intent to deceive. But when prosecutors asked Robert why he did not seek my consent, his answer revealed his true thinking. I am her father. I have the right to decide how family resources are allocated. Although this money was in her name, it was actually family property. This statement infuriated the judge. Judge Hensley, a woman in her 60s, said sternly, "Mr. Miller, adult children's personal property is not family property. Regardless of your motives, using someone's identity information to apply for loans without authorization is a crime, with no exceptions." Linda appeared more remorseful in her testimony, claiming she was just following her husband's arrangements and did not realize this was criminal. Her lawyer tried to portray her as a passive participant, but prosecutors pointed out that it was Linda who personally took my identification documents, it was she who forged my signature on loan application documents, and it was she who actively provided my personal information. Ignorance of law is no excuse, the prosecutor said. Mrs. Miller, as an adult, should have known that forging someone else's signature is illegal. The most difficult moment was my own victim testimony. I needed to stand in the witness box facing my family and describe in detail the harm their betrayal had caused me. "Your Honor," I began, my voice trembling. "Many people ask why I would prosecute my own family. The answer is simple: because they did not just steal my money, they stole my future. I worked for 7 years, 10+ hours every day, no vacations, no social life, just to save enough money for college. That was not just $72,400. That was the price of my youth, the sum total of my hopes for the future. More importantly, the debt they incurred by stealing my identity will affect my credit record for life. This means I may be unable to rent apartments, unable to buy cars, unable to pass background checks for good jobs. They destroyed my entire life plan to prop up a 32-year-old man who has never taken responsibility for anything." At this point, I looked toward Robert. Outside this courtroom, Mr. Miller told me that Michael is the man of the family, so resources should be prioritized for him. "But Your Honor, I want to ask, in 21st century America, shouldn't women have equal opportunities and protections?" The courtroom fell silent. If I do not stand up today to defend my rights, it is not only a betrayal of myself, but also a betrayal of everyone who believes hard work can change destiny. No one should be deprived of the fruits of their efforts because of gender, birth order, or family expectations. Finally, I turned to Linda. Mrs. Miller said, "Money is not as important as family." I agree with that statement. But the problem is, in her eyes, I was never family, just a tool that could be sacrificed at any time. Real family members respect each other's boundaries, feel proud of each other's successes, rather than destroying one child's life to favor another child. 6 months later, the verdicts were announced. Michael Miller, 5 years federal imprisonment, $300,000 in restitution, 3 years supervised release after prison. Permanent prohibition from serving in any financial management role in any enterprise. Robert Miller, 18 months imprisonment, $50,000 fine. 2 years supervised release. Linda Miller, due to cooperation with the investigation and being a first-time offender, received 3 years probation, 200 hours community service. Mandatory participation in financial responsibility education courses. When the verdict was announced, Linda wailed in the courtroom. Robert maintained angry silence. Michael deflated like a punctured balloon, finally realizing his business genius dreams were completely shattered. For me, this was not victory, but heavy relief. In the months following the verdict, I gradually dealt with the aftermath of this disaster. The bank ultimately recovered $68,500 in cash. The remaining $3,900 had been spent by Michael before his arrest, mainly on gambling and alcohol. Those fraudulent loans were officially cancelled, and my credit record was cleared. But repairing credit scores was a slow process. Even with court judgments, it took nearly a year to recover above 720 points. A year later, I finally packed my belongings and left Millbrook to begin my studies at the University of Washington in Seattle. In that moment, as I drove past the town limits, I did not look back. That's the story for today. Hope you enjoyed this incredible tale. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Subscribe for more captivating stories like this, and don't forget to like and share this video. Thank you for being here. See you next time.